Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm Brenda Winkle, energetic leadership guide, psychic medium, and somatic coach for ambitious leaders who know their gifts are real and who want to stand fully in them. Here, you'll learn how to trust your intuition, embody your vision, and step into the freedom you've been craving, all without chasing more certifications or carrying stuff that does not belong to you. Every week, I'll share powerful practices and conversations with thought leaders and changemakers that help you transform your vision into embodied confidence, claim your gifts without apology, and lead with both clarity and freedom. Because your gifts aren't cute, they're powerful, they're real, and they're needed. Start today by downloading my free energy audit at brendawinkle.com/audit. It's the exact tool I use to track what's fueling me and what's draining me. It will help you discern between that hit of achievement and true joy so that you can lead with more clarity and impact. This is your space to stop proving, start embodying, and live fully in your gifts. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. Today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about what's happening in the news, why it's affecting your body the way that it is, and we're not going to be talking about anything in specificity, so you're not going to have to worry about being triggered. What we're going to really talk about is the ways that you can strengthen your own internal boundaries so that you can support yourselves better in this time. So there's been a lot in the news over the last several months, as you are well aware. Stories about women being harmed, stories about power being abused, stories about people being pressured and coerced and silenced. And when we see these stories, many empathic women feel something deeply in their bodies: grief, anger, rage, fear, and sometimes recognition or familiarity. Because many women, whether you're empathic or not, have had moments where they knew something didn't feel right. And for one reason or another, and we'll get into what those might be, they did not feel safe enough or able to act on what they knew. Now, I want to assure you, this episode is not about fear. This is about understanding why it happens and what actually changes it. Okay. So for me, the work that I do in the podcast, in my programs, in my coaching, it's not theoretical. It's not just something I picked, like I want to work in this industry. It is deeply personal to me. I know what it's like to override your own knowing. I know what it's like to second guess how you feel and to talk yourself out of it. I know what it's like to prioritize keeping the peace, to try to manage other people's emotions. And many women learn very, very early on that being agreeable is safer, that being accommodating is rewarded, heavily rewarded, being easy to be around is kind of expected, and that we're very much rewarded and praised when we show up in service. And I mean literally like serving drinks and food and tending to people as though we're the hostess of our entire lives. Not just when we're having people over to our home, but we walk through lives like we are responsible for hosting everything. Like we are the freaking concierge of the world. We walk through our lives like that because we have been socialized to believe that that is how we're supposed to be. And then if we also endured any of the things that I mentioned earlier, that's also stuck in our bodies. And it becomes a survival technique. It's a survival skill. We learn how to read a room. really early on. We know how to anticipate people's reactions. We know how to diffuse reactions. We know how to adjust quickly. We know how to avoid conflict. We definitely know how to keep other people's comfortable. Other people's, you know what I mean? Others comfortable. And over time, this can create a pattern of self abandonment. And for most of the people that I work with, that pattern of self abandonment is very difficult to see. And it's very difficult to pinpoint when it happens because it often looks like kindness. It looks like showing up for the people that you love. Recently, I shared a reel, and on TikTok, there were several comments that were left by really thoughtful people. And many women really resonated deeply with this. But the comment was, nothing is more exciting to me than raising my family. And many women deeply resonate with that. We love our children. We love our parents. We love our siblings. We love our partners. And of course, we want them to feel supported. But something really interesting happens. Many women automatically put themselves last. And we're not talking about just occasionally, but as a way of being. Again, it comes back to this concept of being the hostess of your own life, where you make sure everyone else has their serving first. You make sure everyone else has a drink in their hand first. And the problem for most of us is that we don't turn that off just because we're not in public anymore. We continue that. Think about how many times you either see on TV or maybe experience in your own life or maybe witness somebody that you're close to where there is one person who is the person serving all the other people in the home, the person preparing all the meals, the person getting a drink. I'm thirsty. I'm Think about how often you see this. We see it in media, we see it in movies, we see it in our personal lives. And we're not talking about just occasionally. This is sort of the way it's being. This is a way of being. Meals, schedules, energy, attention, dreams. And we've talked about it. There's many research pieces about this. I love the work by Melissa Hoganboom. She is a BBC reporter. She and I have met over Zoom several times. In fact, I've done background for her pieces on empaths in the past. And we've talked about the hidden labor. In fact, I really invite you to go check out her work. She has a Substack. I think it's called Mom Brain or something similar to that. Anyway, her name is Melissa Hoganboom. Highly recommend her work because it's very thoughtful. It's all based in science. And we've talked about this phenomenon as it relates to women and empathic women in particular, because everything organizes around everything else first and everyone else first. And at first, this can feel really loving. Like we feel like, oh, we're helping the people that we love. We're really showing up for them. But when it becomes constant and it is the pattern, women are silently disappearing from their own lives. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about my own story. I became a single mom when my daughter was 5, and she's now a grown up. She's on her own. So this was a long time ago. And at the age of 5, I had CPTSD. Well, her age of 5, I had CPTSD from what happened inside my marriage. And I had tremendous mom guilt over being a single parent. And, nobody in the history of ever grows up as a little girl and says, gosh, I just really hope I can put my kid through a divorce one day. Nobody says that. And so I had that in the back of my mind. And I was healing from my own trauma, which I had no idea the depths of trauma healing that would occur over the next years. In fact, I still can find certain triggers. And so what's happening in the news recently has been really challenging for me. It's been really challenging. And if you have a high level of empathy, it's probably been challenging for you. And if you have lived experiences similar to what you're hearing on the news, it's probably been challenging for you as well. But all this is to say, when my daughter was 5 and I became a single mom, I began to high achieve motherhood. And so I had always put her first and second and third because I just wanted I wanted her to be okay. I wanted her to listen to what's happening in my throat. I can hardly even get it out. I just wanted I wanted her to be happy. I wanted her to be healthy. I wanted her to be okay. And so I put everything into parenting her. The moment I came home, I was parenting. I was parenting while I was at work. I was parenting. I mean, I took her to school with me. We went to the same school. So even on my off time, sometimes I was parenting. Like I would have a prep, a planning session or what is it called? Planning period at my school. And I would be concerned about her and I would go stick my head in her classroom because things, I mean, we left that marriage for a reason. Let's just put it that way. And I wanted to make sure she was okay. And so I was all in on making sure she was okay. She was completely my thoughts all the time. I just wanted her to be okay. And when she was about 8, by that time, things had stabilized and we were healing and things were going much better. I was still in very, very frequent therapy sessions for CPTSD. And my therapist at the time asked me to start having more fun. And I was totally willing to do that, but I had no idea how to do that because I was so disconnected from anything I liked. I just couldn't even think of it. And so one Sunday afternoon, my daughter and I sat down at the kitchen table and we decided we were going to write on little pieces of paper. And we wrote down things we really wanted to do and things that made us happy and things we thought were fun. And it ranged from blowing bubbles to sidewalk chalk to riding our bikes to taking the dogs for a walk to going down to the river. And we were able to fill a little glass round vase called a rose bowl with all these little pieces of paper we'd folded up. And then we begin to draw from that each time that each time that we were looking for something to do. And over time, we realized we didn't need to pull the papers out of the jar because we had remembered, or I had remembered what I like to do. I'd remembered what brings me joy. Oh, it felt so good. And so that was about when she was like 6.5 or 7. By the time she was 8, one time she sat at the kitchen table. She was eating pancakes, which was, and probably still is, her favorite food. And she was just eating her pancakes. And I was talking about a curiosity around going somewhere and taking a little trip. And she looked at me and she said, "Mom, I really need you to have your own life because I worry about you when I'm not home with you. And I would really like to not worry about you." And I thought to myself at the time, I was like, wow, this is a very mature thing to say. But I took her seriously because I could tell she was right, that she was indeed worried about me. And so I started to make some intentional plans on the times that she wasn't around, which weren't all that often, but still I tried to make intentional plans. And that continued for several years. And then when she was 13, we were having a discussion about, just dreaming into the future. Every few months, I have always sat down with her and said, "What do you think life is going to be like in 5 years? What do you want it to be like? What do you want it to feel like?" And this time she was saying, "Well, in 5 years, I'm going to be 18. And I really want to be able to go live a big life. I want to travel. I want to have friends. I want to go wherever I want to live. And I don't want to worry about you. And I feel like you don't have a life outside of me." And at the time, she was right because I attended all of her events. I was trying to make friends with her friends' parents. And again, even though we weren't going to the same school anymore, I was still a teacher at the time. I was a choir director and she was in my choir that was outside of school at the time. And she could feel it. She loved the support. And also, she could recognize it was a lot and that I wasn't putting any attention or energy anywhere else. And so she said, Mom, I really want to be able to leave home when I'm 18. And if you don't have a life of your own, I'm scared I'm not going to leave home. I'm scared I'm not going to go live my life. So I'd really like it if you could find your own life. And I was like, okay, so this is the second time you've told me this. And at the time, I was running a photography business. I was working full time in school as a teacher. I also was working in at least one other extracurricular choir, maybe two. I can't remember for sure. And I took her seriously. And that was when I launched this iteration of my business back in Idaho and really dug in and allowed myself to start attending retreats and to going out with friends. And life began to bloom for me and for her. It became richer because she had a little bit more spaciousness in her life because it was literally just my daughter and me. We were like the original Gilmore Girls. And so there wasn't like, after the age of 8, there was not even custody transfers. That wasn't a part of our thing. It was literally her and me all the time. And so this is really important because if you think you're doing your kids a favor by being completely accessible, completely all about them, they are silently thinking, I'm not going to be able to go live my life. And I can see it now so clearly because my daughter's grown up. She's out of the house. She's on her own. And I can see it in friends and family members and see it in my own self, the difference between being a really present parent who has their own full life and being a very present parent who does very, very, very little for themselves. I can see it. In fact, I can see it within 3 minutes of meeting somebody because the pressure that is being put on your kids when your entire life revolves around them is intense. And whether this is kids or maybe in your circumstance, it's not kids, maybe it's an aging parent where you really don't want to leave the house because your aging parent is there. Or maybe for you, it's a fur baby where you don't want to leave the house because your fur baby is there and your fur baby doesn't enjoy it when you leave. Whatever the case might be, no one benefits from women abandoning themselves, really. Now, are there people who benefit? Well, yeah, I think that could be argued that there are people who benefit, but I mean, people who are doing the right thing, raising kind, caring families, and really care about women. Because we're so socialized in especially the United States, but I think it's around the world that we're to be of service, that the thing that people think is a benefit of women being completely self-sacrificing is not, because there is subtle resentment that is happening all the time. And as women, if you think the people in your life are not tracking that subtle resentment, you're wrong. My daughter, the reason she was able to track that is she's an empath just like me. She could feel it. Even when I said it wasn't there, even when I tried to pretend that it was okay with me, that I didn't have anybody to go anywhere with ever, except for her and my parents. Listen to my voice crack again. This is hard to talk about. She's an empath. She could track it. Whether or not your kids are empaths, and my guess is if you're listening, you probably have these empathic traits, and there's probably a pretty good chance your kids do too. I just want to say no one benefits from women who are abandoning themselves. Not your partner, not really. Not your workplace, not really, because you're not showing up fully. And our communities are definitely not benefiting from women who abandon themselves. We need women to be fully resourced. We need women to begin to rise into this new earth that you can feel. You know that since I would say December 2025, January 2026, you can feel the shift. It's massive. It's been coming for longer than that. It's been coming since probably the spring of 2025. And now we're fully in it. And as this year of the fire horse really continues to evolve, you can feel the energy of burn it down, right? You can feel it. And here's the thing, the world, the entire world, the collective benefits when empathic women remain connected to themselves. Because of your deep empathy and probably intuition, you have a connection to other people. You have a connection to the divine. You have a connection to your own soul that is guiding you and leading you. Often, empathic women feel responsible for emotional harmony. Anticipate discomfort before it happens. Try to prevent disappointment. Monitor other people's reactions. Override themselves automatically. And this does not happen because they're weak. Because I tell you what, the empathic women that I know and that I work with are the strongest, most intelligent, most fierce women you will ever meet. And because you're so perceptive and you notice more and you care deeply, I just want to tell you, caring deeply should not require you to disappear. When empathy develops without self-trust, without completely being able to say, I know this is my feeling, these are my emotions, these are my beliefs, people can become highly attuned to other people, but very disconnected from themselves. This is happening now on a national level. Think about all the people leaving one specific political ideology. They're waking up. And I don't mean waking up in the spiritual sense, although that might be true too. What I mean is they're realizing, oh, this isn't a line for me. They're thinking clearly. They're disconnecting from the empathy that has kept them in this pattern. There is a very real danger as empathic people to become victim to cult-like thinking, cult-like ideology, and to be taken advantage of on an epic scale. It's very difficult for empathic women who are not self-trusting, who are not embodied, to recognize red flags, to honor their own discomfort, to speak clearly, to make decisions quickly, to leave situations that don't feel right. And this has nothing to do with capability. It is because their system, their nervous system, their body, their brain is prioritizing what's known and what's familiar over internal safety. And the reason we do that is your brain is hardwired to view any change as potential threat, like literally life-changing threat. So your brain does not want change, even when change would actually create more ease, more release in like, ooh, all the tension. It would actually create autonomy and happiness and freedom and joy to go express and live your own life. Your brain is still back on, but wait, this is a change. And so your brain sends signals out to the body, and the body says, ooh, threat, I'm going to create a stress response. And that's why we have the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. And unlike a lot of popular opinions, you don't get a choice in whether you're going to have fight, flight, freeze, or fawn as your stress response. Your body and your brain are determining that. So what we want to do is we want to repattern your nervous system so that it can relax just a little bit, even in the face of change, meaning change being you're no longer willing to disappoint yourself. You're no longer willing to put yourself last. We want to work with the body because on the body level, we can create that change. When people talk about nervous system regulation, this is exactly what they're talking about. We want to create that safety in the body. And what I mean by safety in the body is your body's not going to automatically go into a stress response when you start to say, no, I don't want to do that. And you know that someone might be disappointed by hearing your no. If your body is still registering that as something that is a threat, it's going to put you in a stress response, which is why you can't say no. Empathy is not the problem here. I just want to be really clear about that. Empathy is a strength. It is a true gift. But empathy without boundaries, internal boundaries, creates vulnerability to pressure. Self-trust can actually strengthen your empathy. You'll actually notice your empathy gets stronger the more you trust yourself, because you can really discern, this is how I feel, and I can also use my empathy to understand how you feel. You'll actually become more compassionate the more internal boundaries you set around your empathy. Women don't need to become less caring. That is not going to be the answer. That is not what's going to happen. Like all these things that you probably see on social media, or maybe you don't. Like, would you choose to be alone in the woods with a man or with a bear? And I don't know the stats, but there's a lot of women that are like, I'll take the bear. There's a ferocity that is happening right now among women, and it's well earned. My take is, let's honor the empathy. Let's channel the empathy and let's use it to change the world, not to abandon yourself, not to disappear. When empathic women can truly trust themselves, they can care deeply, they can still understand nuance, they still value connection, but they're no longer assuming responsibility for everyone else's emotions. And they're capable and able, in a nervous system safe way, to say, no, I don't want to. No, this doesn't feel aligned. And sometimes it'll help. Well, not even sometimes. It will help empathic women to recognize somebody else is feeling something. And that doesn't automatically mean I'm wrong because discomfort is not harm. Disappointment is not harm. When women understand this, their choices get so much clearer. Their voices get steadier. They get more powerful. They find the way to speak up and make a difference in the world. Your relationships become more honest and more fulfilling, and your energy, and this is the important piece, at least for my work, your energy becomes more available to do what truly matters. You move out of survival into thriving and making a difference. Right now, so many things are being revealed culturally, and the energy around it. If you've been in any of my programs, you've heard me talk about this for months. Things are being revealed and things are literally being burned down. We're watching systems of oppression begin to crumble, and that's a good thing. What we're really seeing is power dynamics revealed. The systems of oppression are becoming so obvious, and there's going to be more. There's going to be more revelations that are coming out over the next few weeks, like really horrific stuff. Not that what is out isn't horrific. It is. It is absolutely horrific. And moments like this can feel really overwhelming, but they can also create clarity, because moments like this remind us how important it is for women to trust themselves, to recognize what's true, to honor when something feels off, to listen when something inside says, no. Self-trust is not selfish. It's stabilizing. And when you can trust yourself more fully, it's stabilizing for individuals, for the people around you, for your family, for your communities. It's literally how we can come together collectively and start to create the change that is being asked of us. So imagine being able to feel your empathy without feeling overwhelmed by it, and caring deeply without constantly second guessing yourself, being able to make decisions without needing everyone to agree or to validate your decision. Imagine that, not having to make your decision by committee. Imagine feeling compassion for people without feeling like you're carrying it, without feeling weighed down by the heaviness. Imagine feeling connected to you, even when people around you might be having reactions. This is what internal boundaries and energetic boundaries can create. This is also the work that we do inside Power. We build the internal capacity to start noticing what you feel, not only emotionally, but in your body. So many women are disconnected from their body sensations that if I ask you to feel something in your body, that's really difficult. We're going to help you learn to notice when your body is talking to you in a way that is giving information and intuitive insight. Power helps you separate what's yours from what's not. It helps you remain steady in moments of pressure. It helps you to trust your own knowing consistently. So your empathy can become clarity instead of feeling confusion or even a compulsion to help people that you don't feel like you really want to help. Enrollment closes April 20th. That's one day after this podcast airs, and we begin April 21st. If this resonates with you, you are welcome inside. Empathy is not a liability, but it does require support. You don't have to start caring, but invitation to start including yourself because you matter. If this episode touched you in any way, would you please consider sharing it with 3 of your friends and leaving the podcast a rating review wherever you're listening? Because the more ratings and reviews and the more shares a podcast gets, the more we can get it into the ears of women who really need this work. And you and I both know that in order to create the change that we need on a global, collective level, we need more people to hear that they can maintain their deep empathy and compassion and care without disappearing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you being on the journey with me more than I can even say. Bye for now. Until next time.